honey, deed I do. And do I need you? Oh my, do I? Honey, honey, deed I do. I'm glad that I'm the one who found you. That's why I'm always hanging round you. Do I love you? Oh my, do I? Honey, honey, deed I do.
Good evening and welcome to episode 10 of KBTV, the Kennington Bioscope's online show, bringing you a regular fix of silent films and fantastic accompaniment whilst we remain on furlough from our regular non-virtual venue, the Cinema Museum in London. Tonight's show promises an eclectic and epic selection of some 6 films by kind courtesy of the collections of the Netherlands EYE Filmmuseum and Jean Desmet collection, accompanied by 4 musicians, 2 with pre-recorded sections and 2 performing live, and hosted live by me, Michelle Facey. And I'll be popping back a few times throughout the show to tell you about the films and introduce our players. Now, as well as a range of musicians in the show, for our first film we're seeing an assortment of screen actors with another edition of our film stars, the Photoplay magazine screen supplement number 6 from the USA, directed by Julian Johnson and issued as a little crowd-pleasing programmer in 1919. We saw supplement number 1 back in episode 6 of KBTV, and these sorts of films attest to the explosion of interest in the lives of those who featured on the screens of the time, plus the act of filmmaking itself, along with the growth in fan magazines, which are full of images of tours around the stars' homes, delight in showing them at play and at work, modelling new fashions, and taking part in discussions about their paths to fame and speculation about where they may be going in the future. And these screen supplements serve to promote all of the above. In this edition, we'll see Elsie Janis, known as the sweetheart of the AEF, the American Expeditionary Force, for her touring entertainment of the troops stationed near the front lines during the First World War, accompanied by her mother, who will also meet in this supplement. She'd had an early start on stage at the age of 2, known as Little Elsie, and progressed to become star of stage and screen, as well as a singer, song and screenwriter, plus a production manager, and she became NBC's first female radio announcer in 1934, a real go-getter. Next, we'll get to see film actor and future director James Cruise as he gets hitched in a piece of film shot several years prior in 1913 and claiming to be the first wedding caught on film, in an amazing piece of promotion for the Tannhauser company as he marries fellow Tannhauser actor Marguerite Snow right there at the studios. Then we're rushed through the years to see their baby, Julie Jane, as she grows. By 1919, the time of the supplement's release, Cruise would be regularly directing films, and by 1923 he'd be helming The Covered Wagon and marrying again to Betty Compson, his marriage to Marguerite having come to its conclusion in the previous year. Then we'll meet another actress also close to her mother, Louise Glaum, perhaps a sign that her 3-year marriage to Harry Edwards was at its end, as she was soon to divorce. But also in 1919, she was on the cusp of starring in the boldly named Sex of 1920, plus in the same year, other passionate roles in Love, Madness, The Leopard Woman and Love. Much earlier in her career, though, before the vamping set in with The Wolf Woman in 1916, she starred in a prolific series of Universal comedies in 1914, utilising the character and title of Universal Ike, co-starring with Augustus Carney as Ike and then Bobby Ray, who took over the role. She also co-starred in several westerns, including the brilliant Hell's Hinges with William S. Hart. Then some daylight is thrown onto magic when we see a stunt being set up, performed and filmed, followed by actress Clara Kimball Young, whom we've met in a couple of earlier KBTV episodes, caught relaxing on her holidays. We also catch glimpses of Keystone's canine mascot, Teddy the Great Dane, and Marie Prevost, one of the great beauties of Sennett's famed Bathing Bells and a brilliant light comedian. The film that both Teddy and Marie were undertaking at this time was entitled Uncle Tom Without a Cabin, and stalwarts Ben Turpin, Heine Conklin, Ford Sterling and James Finlayson. But blink and you'll miss Marie as the footage ends suddenly. Then we have a short, a piece of animated advertising from 1929 before we come back. And accompanying this section, we have the superb John Sweeney playing live for you now. Welcome back. Thank you, John. I do hope you enjoyed that time spent with our film stars. I loved Elsie Janis's natty checked outfits, fit for home and garden, and Louise Glaum's gorgeous diaphanous creation and kiss to camera. Plus, I'm terribly fond of Teddy, the Keystone dog. And of course, as some of you may know, I also have a soft spot for the talented and pulchritudinous Miss Mary Prevost, about whom I've given presentations at both the Bioscope and at Bristol Slapstick Festival back in January this year, with a film in which she starred, On to Reno from 1928, directed by James Cruise, through some of whose major life events we've just had a quick whip through. So it was super to catch a glimpse of Marie there, patting that pretty face with her powder puff. And what fun to see Flux the cat. The famed and much mimicked Felix the cat saw its animated admirers copying him across the continent, in that instance in the Netherlands. And I also recall another advert which utilised a Felix alike, this time emanating from Czechoslovakia, which we showed at the Cinema Museum last year as an extra accompanying a Czech silent comedy starring Annie Ondra, brought to us by Glenn Mitchell. In addition, last year we marked the occasion of the centenary of the original Felix the Cat, created by Pat Sullivan, with a presentation on this fine feline in words, visuals and song, before our screening of What Else But the Cat and the Canary. So if you sense our fondness for a theme, we have another one here for you now as we continue tonight's show with 3 films from France, all with critters, great and small, at their heart. First up, we're getting close up and personal with the water beetle in a little scientific documentary shot in microscope, accompanied by another adorable critter, Mr. Colin Sell, in a specially pre-recorded segment. This microdrama is followed by Drama to the Max, drawn from the classical world in a beautifully hand-tinted film from the fertile imagination of director Louis Fayod, in the enticingly titled L'Orgie Romaine, known also and more tellingly by its other title, Lions of the Tyrant. In this short, sharp film from 1911, tyrannical Roman Emperor Heliogabalus, also known as Antoninus, who's starting at aged 14, presided over a scant and scandal-ridden reign of just 4 years in the 3rd century CE, surrounds himself with women and punishes them mercilessly, a trait that perhaps the director was guilty of possessing himself at this time as far as his cast was concerned. John Sweeney told me he played for this film at his first Pordenone Festival in the year 2000, and he recalled this great tidbit from the Giannate catalogue, which stated that in 1911 to 12, Fayod had a great, if short-lived, enthusiasm for casting a pride of lions in his films. The enthusiasm was not always shared by the actors. And when you see the film, you'll certainly understand why. It's less a case of who let the dogs out and more of a who let the cats in type situation. And while keeping your eye on the giant kitties, you certainly can't peel them away from the screen. For Fayod had an unerring sense of what may result in cinematic success, a trait that was recognised right from the get-go at Gaumont, where in 1905, Alice Guy, soon to be Guy Blaché, Gaumont's artistic director, snapped up jobbing journalist Louis' first proffered scripts, and indeed offered him the chance to direct right off the bat. But Louis was initially cautious about jumping into this still fairly novel industry and refused at the fence. But by the next year, he was out of the gate and galloping along in a fine old fashion, helming some 700 films over an 18-year career by the time of his sadly premature demise at the age of just 52. In the year of this short alone, he made 95 films, and not long after a spell of focusing on historical and classical dramas such as this, he would become the market leader in the most fantastic, influential and truly modern crime serials, Fantomas, Udex and of course Les Vampires, among others. Even if, for instance, Les Vampires was no hit with the critics, partly for fear that it glorified crime, audiences loved it, and the serial's serial success saved the French film industry from being flooded by foreign imports. And long before that, back in 1907, when Guy Blaché left for the USA, it was at her suggestion that Feuillade became her successor as Gaumont's artistic director, and it was clear that she'd put her money on the right horse, and he stayed with the company until 1918. And while we're here, poised on the eve of the start of the online limited edition of Pordenone's Giornate del Cinema Muto Festival, John Sweeney plays again for the film tonight, live, almost exactly 20 years on from when he first played for it. And our very own Giornate alumni, the lovely Lillian Henley, joins us again for the online bioscope with the last of this trio of Gallic films, in a specially pre-recorded accompaniment for what is most definitely a shaggy dog story, a 1912 short comedy, Le Chien Insaisissable, the elusive dog, in which somebody definitely does let the dog out. And this rounds out just the sort of supporting material one would have seen at a Parisian cinema in that period. Meet me back here again in the lobby after these three for another little chat before our final film. Sadly uncredited Chien, lacking the fame of Keystone's Teddy, may have been nothing but a hound dog, but he certainly managed to have some adventures and really did the dirty on those dastardly dog catchers. So hurrah for the hound, and boo hiss to Heliogabalus and his crew of killer kitties. If you've been following these KBTV broadcasts of ours, you may like to cast your mind back to mid-June, and episode 4, in which we closed out the show with an incredibly engaging and popular instalment of the series The Girl Detective, a 1915 production of standalone photoplay stories by the KLM Company, starring a top regular of the early silent screen, Miss Ruth Rowland, playing the part of Ruth Carruthers, a society girl turned special police investigator who acts, both in herself and in her role, with real authority. In Colin C. LaHue's 1964 book, Continued Next Week, A History of the Moving Picture Serial, he describes Ruth's appeal in ways in which we can relate after seeing her in action in that previous 4th episode, The Mystery of the Tea Dansant. Some 50 years after their making, LaHue said, screening episodes from her serials today, one can easily see why her work was so much in demand, both here and abroad. Good supporting casts and the best in writing and directing talents helped to put across her style of acting and gave her the reputation in the 1920s as the queen of the thriller serials. So at an even greater distance now than from LaHue's, and our current vantage point of 105 years on from their release, we can testify to the continuing appeal of Ruth and the agency she demonstrates in her storylines and in the way she carries herself, quite apart from her frankly dazzling array of highly coveted hats, which caused quite a stir of admiration and not a little envy among our viewers last time, which became apparent in the social media commentary after the show. I assure those ardent millenaristas among you that this 5th episode of The Girl Detective, entitled Old Isaacson's Diamonds, does not disappoint on the tit-for front, including 2 splendid tams, both woolly and furry, sported by Ruth and Cleo Ridgely, playing Queenie, the girl who lives on the wrong side of the law. Cleo starred in a good number of films, starting off with the Louvre Company in 1911 before taking up with KLM, and had a good career through the teens and early 20s, reappearing in a handful of bit parts in the late 30s and 40s. The Girl Detective series was particularly fruitful for Cleo as she married the director James W. Horn the following year from its production, and after divorcing her first husband, another director, Richard Ridgely. Cleo was a fine horse rider, performing some heart-stopping stunts in her films, and she and her first husband even undertook a promotional trip from coast to coast on horseback in 1912, which took them 18 months to complete. Cleo and James were blessed with a long marriage and twins, June and James Jr., both of whom also served in pictures. Other regular players in this series are Thomas Lingham, who played the arch-baddie Marmaduke in the last episode, and here he is playing a fence for stolen goods. And the cast indeed were all regulars. Of course, if you haven't yet caught that previous episode but find your interest piqued by all of this and would like to know more biographical detail about Ruth and the KLM Company about which I spoke last time, then you can find that show right here on our YouTube channel. But this next episode of The Girl Detective is again one held and preserved by the EYE Filmmuseum, and we're most grateful to them for allowing us to show this short film. And we're thankful also for the efforts of team member Tod Higginson for his translation of the Dutch intertitles, enabling us to get the most out of old Isaacson's Diamonds. Director James W. Horn cut his teeth on this series, and it saw the start of a prolific career, although not quite numerically in Fayard terms, but with well over 200 credits to his name, including the brilliant Buccaneer comedy starring Rod LaRock, The Cruise of the Jasper B, which we screened at the Cinema Museum a couple of years ago. And also he directed Buster Keaton's College, plus multiple Laurel and Hardy shorts, going on to helm successful talkies by the boys like The Bohemian Girl and Way Out West, and working on into the early 1940s. Old Isaacson's Diamonds was released on February the 24th, 1915, and its advertising blurb claimed that police officials credited the series with having real detective stories. And it continues. In this episode, the girl detective finds herself matching wits against a criminal of extraordinary ingenuity. And to complement all of this, we have the musical wits and ingenuity of Mr. Costas Fotopoulos providing for us a thrillingly live accompaniment to the film. Bravo! Thank you to Costas Fotopoulos for your suitably sparkly playing for old Isaacson's Diamonds. And hurrah to Ruth Rowland and her girl detective. I hope you enjoyed another visit to her world of sleuthing and subterfuge. As well as cracking crimes, there were some cracking close-ups, and I particularly enjoyed the scenes in the saloon with some really delicious work there by Ruth and Cleo as Queenie. I love this line from the moving picture world of 1915, describing Ruth in the film as the young woman whose love for detective work leads her into hard and fast places. And I'm sure that we'll also be continuing the conversation later online with some more girl detective related hard and fast hat chat. And that rounds out your 10th episode of KBTV. And it's good to be back. But before we say our thank yous and skedaddle, we must let you know about an exciting collaboration between ourselves at the Kennington Bioscope and the BFI London Film Festival 2020. With the BFI LFF going online with some of their events, as a few of us have opted to do in this most unusual year, and being fans of our format, the BFI kindly invited us to partner with them for their festival screening of the newly restored and rare survivor of Australian silent film, the McDonough sisters' 1929 production of The Cheaters. An engaging melodrama with its story of criminality, class and love reaching across the divide, the film was written, produced and directed by Paulette McDonough. The art direction was executed by sibling Phyllis McDonough, and the film's leading lady was eldest sister Isabel McDonough, who went by the stage name of Mary Lorraine. The film will be free to watch in the UK only via the BFI player from Sunday 11th of October at 1 p.m. BST until Wednesday the 14th of October at 1 p.m. BST. But you do need to book your free online ticket in advance and ensure you have successfully installed the BFI player in order to be able to watch this film from the Treasure Strand in the LFF. A specially pre-recorded accompaniment has been provided by the Kennington Bioscope's own originator and online KBTV innovator, Mr. Cyrus Gabrish, and you'll be able to see this musician's hands plying their magic during the film via the popular piano cam feature in the corner of your screens, as with these KBTV shows. And in addition to that, myself and the BFI's own silent film curator, Bryony Dixon, have also recorded via Zoom, with the assistance of the BFI LFF tech team, our own special introductions and insights into the lives and work of the McDonoughs and the restoration process undertaken by the NFSA, the National Film and Sound Archive of Australia, of this, the sisters' sole surviving film, The Cheaters. In that intro, we're also showing some clips from a film made at the Cinema Museum by Tony Safri of an interview with the sons of Isabel McDonough conducted by Tony Fletcher. And that introduction will also be available to watch on the BFI player for free as an option before and also apart from the film. So we hope that those of you who can make full use of these and other films freely available in the online BFI LFF 2020. All the details can be found on the festival website, and I've also written a little piece containing all the links you need for this online screening, which you can find in the news section of the Cinema Museum's website. And we've also put the link to that on the page below here on YouTube. And my thanks always, as always, to the Cinema Museum, closed temporarily due to the continuing COVID crisis. But its faithful and active volunteers are still helping us out. So thank you particularly to David Lavelli and Phil Clark for their assistance in getting the word out about our shows. Thank you very much indeed to Elif Rongen-Kaynakçi, silent film curator at the EYE Filmmuseum, and to them and their marvellous Jean Desmet collection for allowing us to present tonight's film selection. Thank you to John Sweeney and Tod Higginson for programming the films, and particularly to Tod for all the work undertaken by him to provide translated subtitles where necessary and to prepare the films for streaming on our channel, and for managing the live chat box here on the show. A huge thank you, of course, to our fantastic accompanists. We were blessed with an abundance of both films and musicians for this episode, and we're most grateful to Lillian Henley, Colin, John Sweeney and Costas Fotopoulos for both their time and their talents. The show is completely free for you to watch, as with the previous 9 episodes, which are available to watch and rewatch here on our YouTube channel. But we do very much appreciate any donations you're able to make via our coffee donation page. And you can find the link here below and at the header of our Twitter page. And as usual, if you haven't, please follow us on any or all of the social media platforms and sign up for email updates via our website to keep abreast of our programming. And lastly, thank you all for tuning in tonight or whenever it is you choose to catch up. And we hope you enjoyed the show. And if you'll be watching the online Pordenone Silent Film Festival and or the BFI London Film Festival, we hope you have a great time with those too. Lovely to see you. Stay safe and well. And goodbye for now. See you soon. Bye.
I love her, don't mean maybe. Honey, baby, deed I do.
Do you love your baby?
Sure I love her, baby. Precious baby, deed I do.